Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the topic CSP, that is Content Security Policy. Before understanding what CSP is, let's first try and understand why we need it. I have a HTML page where I have a container ID. I also have a function which is now returning a response with message as the key and string as the value. And what the script does is it will try to get this value and put it inside the ID. If we reload the UI, the value is printed as expected. But what if instead of this as the API response, we had this as the API response, which is an unsafe response? We see that instead of a string, the value is actually an image which is trying to download image which is not existing in our server. And hence the on error block will be hit, which will try to inject the script in our DOM. If we load our UI, we see that it is trying to download this image which is not available in our server. Hence the on error block will be hit and it will print the XSS in our DOM. Now, currently it is a console log, but this is an example of cross-site scripting, and this is a way an attacker can inject their own script and pull out some sensitive data from our website. Let's see a few more examples. So I have a script.js, which is loading the script from my own domain. I have a script getting loaded from cdn.js, cloudflare.com, and an inline script. And if we look into the network tab, they are loading as expected. Now, what if we assume that both are actually untrusted script and they should not be injected in our DOM? We can assume that these are actually the script that is injected by the attacker as a part of some API response. So we should be avoiding to allow downloading or injection of this script. So to do that, we can use the content security policy. So to define a content security policy, we can use the meta tag with HTTP query and have the key as content security policy. And we can use the content attribute to actually define the policy. So to start with, since we are looking into script, we'll use the script src and we can start with none. So when you say none, we are essentially saying that all the scripts that are getting downloaded, all the resource that are getting downloaded, script resource is untrusted and hence it should be blocked. So if we now reload the UI, we see that both the scripts are blocked by a CSP. If you also look at the console, we'll see that it will let us know that which are the script that was blocked due to our content security policy, and it will mention the violations that it has caused. For example, here in this case, script.js and jQuery main.js. But normally, script.js should be a trusted script because we are downloading it from our own server. So to allow that, we can use the self keyword. Now, if we reload our UI, we'll see that the script.js is downloaded as expected. Now, what if jQuery.main.js is also a allowed domain from where resource to be downloaded? So we can take this domain and add it in this list. Once we do that and we reload our UI, we see that the JavaScripts are loaded as expected. What about inline? If we still load, we see that there is some violations that has happened and this inline JS is not being printed. So to allow this, content security policy wants us to apply one more policy, and that is unsafe inline. And now if we load our UI, we see that it is printed as expected. So how will this content security policy really help us? So imagine we had this as a content security policy and some attacker is trying to inject a script from malicious.com. And if someone now tries to add this, it could be as a part of some API response or something like that. So now if someone tries to inject, we'll see that it is blocked due to CSP. So in CSP, we have clearly marked from which domain or which place our resources should be allowed. So anything apart from that or some malicious website or some malicious script is blocked because we have this content security policy in place. So is this applicable only for script SRC? No. We have different other directives, and to add other directives, we can use the semicolon, and we can use, for example, the style SRC directive, and we can keep adding like how we did it for the script SRC. So if we look at the Indian docs, it tells us about the different CSP directives that we already have. For example, style SRC, we'll have font src, we have image src, and so on. Also, what are the different values that a directive can hold? So the SRC directive can hold multiple value like none, self, the domain name, and the domain name will wildcard character, and so on. Now, if I take this malicious script and put it just above the meta tag, and if we load our UI, we see that the script is allowed. It is not blocked by a CSP. And the reason is the content security policy is laid when the HTML is parsed and the meta tag is received. So in this case, if an attacker is able to inject the malicious script even before the content security policy is laid, it will be a success. So adding content security policy using the meta tag is not the best approach. Also, if we are adding content security policy via meta tag, there are a number of directives, for example, report to and others, which are not supported via the meta tag. So to recap, to understand content security policy, we need to first understand how cross-site scripting injection takes place. So in case of cross-site scripting injection, an attacker will generally try to save an unsafe response in the backend. And once any of the user tries to load it in the UI, the unsafe response will get injected as a script into the user's DOM, which can do some exploitation of data. So to prevent this, CSP is just a set of instruction to control which resources should be allowed to load, and it gives us a defense against cross-site scripting. And the way it provides the defense is basically if we have added the content security policy as example.com, so example.com request will be allowed, while any other request with malicious.com will be blocked because that is not in line with the content security policy that is defined. So in the next video, we will basically see what is the best way to add the content security policy so that we can take advantage of the different advanced configuration of content security policy, as well as we can overcome the situation where even if an attacker tries to inject a script before the meta tag, it should be blocked. Thank you.